Welcome to Life as God Intended. I'm Don Brzezinski. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like. In today's video, we'll be discussing how you don't form an identity, but you were born into it. So many of us don't really like who we are secretly, which again is a reflection of not only who we are, but our identity. And it's because we have a distorted view of ourselves. Now, we don't present that to others. We try to do the best we can to present something that we think that will be appealing to them. So how do we break free from this distorted identity? Is there anything that you and I can do? Well, the reality is there's not. You say, what do you mean? You know, the very fact that you tell somebody they can't do something about something, they feel like, well, I'll prove you otherwise. But the answer is no, and no actually should be a relief. You say a relief? Yeah, well, because if you've been the way you've been all your life and you don't particularly like who you are, and you've come to the realization that your presentation is a distorted presentation and you'd like to change and you haven't been able to change, if the answer was there was something you could do and you haven't done it at this point, it doesn't really encourage you that you're going to make any change going forward. And so there should be freedom in that. The fact that there isn't anything that I can do, because I'd already done it at this point in my life if I could have changed my identity. Because it's always been about what I've attempted to do or what I attempted not to do. And it's always had to do with the life experiences that were thrown at me and how all that's kind of conformed me into who I think I've become today. However, a true understanding of yourself and who you really are, thankfully, doesn't really begin with you. You say, I don't understand. Well, that's the problem. We don't understand. It actually begins with the one who created you to be. A true understanding of identity has to do with God. And it's only when you and I begin to understand that our value or that our worth is in God's design and how He's designed us to be who we were intended to be by Him and to function the way He designed us to function. And so until we begin to see ourselves the way that God sees us, the way that God sees you, your experiences are not going to be that of freedom. You're going to continue to be in that distorted identity. You're going to continue to live in that bondage. And so you begin to see what I'm talking about, real freedom from your past and from your past experiences. You see, until then, our true identity tends to elude us. You know, it's almost like something we're chasing. You know, we've heard, adults talk about teens, they're just trying to find themselves. Well, frankly, it doesn't make any difference how old you are. There's a lot of people still trying to find themselves. And so, that's elusive. They haven't really understood who they are. And the reason is it's tend to always focused on these external things from our past all the way to the present. And as a result, let me ask you, if that's going to be the basis of you viewing yourself and understanding who you are, how do you ever expect to know your true purpose and meaning in life as God intended if you don't even understand who you are? You see, they're directly related. If I don't understand who I am, then I'm not going to understand how to function. And if I don't understand how to function, I'm never going to be able to experience my God-given purpose. And too many people are experiencing what I refer to as an identity theft. That's a big thing in our day, identity theft. Well, frankly, everybody's been experiencing that identity theft spiritually because they're choosing to believe the big lies that the enemy's been telling them throughout their whole lives. And it comes from a myriad of different sources. As I've mentioned, from our earliest childhood memories, we all began to develop an awareness of our own individuality as a person, didn't we? And that's kind of all we knew, We began to process and we began to develop, again, what was kind of commonly referred to as a self-identity. But we're going to make a differentiation between a self-identity and your true identity as God's design. So that self-identity is who you were in reference to your environment and the people that you interacted in. And you quickly learned as a child certain coping mechanisms and even survival techniques to get your needs met and, frankly, to prove your importance both to yourself and to those around you. And, psychiatrists have informed us that a child's personal development actually begins at 2 years old, which is really kind of stunning. And it's basically formed by the time we're 6. When I first discovered that, I was like, you gotta be kidding me, from 2 to 6. I didn't even know anything about who I was or what I was doing. And yet the personality is pretty much formed in that period of time. Now, again, we need to make a distinction here because this has been the problem. There hasn't been a distinction of really understanding who we are and how God's designed us. Personality, which is what we're talking about here, personality has to do with the soul, and it includes those stable psychological characteristics that tend to define each human being as unique. And so we all have personality, and today there's all these personality analysis and everybody kind of views their identity based on their personality. Both children and adults have obviously personality traits, and some of those are long-term characteristics such as our temperament or our moods, or whether we're experiencing moodiness or depression and so forth. And while we could debate or discuss a variety of explanations that are frankly possible, most experts agree that whatever the case might have been, whatever the influences were, that an individual's personality is solidly established by the end of early childhood. Again, that's amazing. So let me simplify this personality development process for us so that we don't confuse the personality with spiritual identity or who you are, because that's what's happening all the time. So there are basically 3 factors that contribute to the establishment of a child's personality. And that happens at a very early age, where we begin to understand who we are. And these 3 facets, number 1, it begins with what you can do. Again, these learned tendencies of your personal abilities or the lack thereof, the personal talents or the lack thereof. So what you can do, your abilities and talents. Secondly, which kind of leads to the second point, what you have. You see, oftentimes what we have or what we've accumulated or acquired that we feel like it's ours, our ownership, has a lot to do with our abilities and talents. And then third, who you know, the associations that you've made. So you can begin to see that these 3 criteria begin to establish or determine your sense of self-identity. What you can do, what you have, and who you know. Well, our society trumpets that all the time, don't they? Do you see it though? Do you see the fallacy here? Why are you struggling to understand who you are or being able to give an adequate explanation as to who you are? Well, it's because your understanding of your identity or who you are has to do with a flawed sense of identity based on these three criteria. And notice, these three criteria are all about who? All about you, and don't forget, your perceptions of yourself and how you view yourself. All of these criteria helped to develop your personality, for sure, we're not denying that, but contrary to popular opinion, don't miss this, personality does not determine your identity. Wow, that's a breaking news flash right there, isn't it? Now, thankfully, the truth about your identity is not formed based upon your abilities, your materialistic possessions, your personal associations, or your perceptions of yourself and all these things that you've experienced in your life. Thank God, your identity doesn't focus on you as the source of who you are. Now, you want to stay tuned because we're going to discuss that in future broadcasts as to really, then what does determine my identity? We hope you were encouraged and blessed by this video. We would love to have your feedback and interact with you. If you have a testimony that relates to today's discussion, please share it below in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so that each time we upload a video that you'll be notified. Be sure to check out our blog on our website, which is in the description below. And until next time, may you experience life as God intended.